Let's go. Let's get right into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast, episode 621. We got Joe Rogan and Alex Berenson speaking about the old left and right, the old identity politics. And then they get into the topic of Lauren Bobert and Susanna Gibson. If you don't know who those two are, we're going to be discussing them a little more, but both of them were caught in some questionable acts. Suzanne, in my opinion, was the more questionable one. She was uploading videos of herself and her husband doing what husband and wives do in private. While Lauren was in a theater vaping too much and doing what somebody would do on a first date with someone that they really like. That's how I'll break it to you. And we're going to discuss them a little bit. But Joe Rogan and Alex are just talking about how people have to identify with left or right. And when something happens that is deplorable on their side, they end up making excuses for it, which I think is true. But in the scenario that Alex brings forth, I think he's off a little bit. I think he's really wrong about this one. But let's just get right into it. Before I do, of course, I'm going to bring you to the store. Public enemy number one. You know who this is. And if you don't, Google the World Economic Forum, Google Agenda 2030, or just go to this channel and just search World Economic Forum. You'll understand quickly why this gentleman is public enemy number one. And we have the bold statement of Soul Not For Sale. Make that bold statement with this t-shirt, a hoodie, or a tank top, or a mug. Whatever you prefer, we got them all. And we also have the certified pure blood shirt for those of you that stood unwavering, that remain untainted, that remain unjabbed. Good for you. Keep that going. Do not give in whatsoever. All of that is available on IamCoachColin.com. And if you want 10% off of anything you just saw, all you have to do is put in the discount code IamCoachColin. That's all capital letters. It's all one word. There's one L in the name Colin, and that gets you 10% off. No questions asked whatsoever. And if you've done that with us already, thank you so much. You have no idea how much my wife and I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now let's get into this clip. Rogan
was a moron and a Trump supporter, and take your horse paste and die.
This is why they don't like you, because you're clearly not on Team Trump. You're not a MAGA guy, so they can't sort of tar you that way. So they don't like anybody they can't categorize.
Well, we should all be uncategorizable. There's a lot of great ideas that come from both sides. It's like the idea that there's only two sides is crazy because there's so much variability. So much variability in the left and variability on the right. Like when you're looking at like the craziest fucking militia guys on the right, and then you look at the craziest fucking Antifa people on the left, like that's not representative of the right and the left. It's representative of the worst aspects, the furthest out on the edges. But if you are in agreement with anything that the right has to say, whether it's stuff about, regulations, the economy, whatever the fuck it is, you are all of a sudden on the side of this goddamn militia. Like, how did that happen?
Right.
I did, you're on team Michelle Obama's a man. You're on team, you know what I mean? Yes. Like, you gotta go all the way with all this fucking kookiness that's on that side. Like, oh no. I just think that, maybe we should have free speech.
Yes.
Maybe freedom of speech is actually really important, and freedom isn't something that should just be dismissed. It sounds corny and cliche, but freedom is really critical.
The older I get, the better I understand the Constitution and why we have it and why we need it.
Those guys were wizards.
They were unbelievable.
They were so good. The people that wrote the Constitution were so good.
Yes.
Like, they understood human nature so well.
Yes.
It's really crazy how they set it up, because they're like, there's got to be a way to stop dictators. There's got to be a way. And they were kind of on it for a while, up until like World War II. They did a great job. They did a great job till people amassed power, and then they had the media and newspapers. They had control of newspapers and all that. And then it was like, oh boy, this is getting slippery. They did a great job of setting it up, though, that at least we have things that they don't have in other countries, like freedom of speech. Like that, the First Amendment is it's so fucking polarizing for some strange reason. That there's people that have, like, smart people that have openly said maybe we should amend the First Amendment.
Yes. So I wrote this in a Substack about a month ago. This is very upsetting to me. There was a poll that Gallup, I think it was Gallup did, of just a few weeks before that. I think it was June. 70% of Democrats now essentially think the government should be able to ban, quote unquote, false speech on social media. So first of all, who's deciding what's true and what's false? Okay. And second of all, you want the government to do that? The Democrats used to believe in free speech. That used to, liberals, the famous instance is when the ACLU in the late 70s, there were these Nazis marching in Skokie, Illinois, and the ACLU said, we're going to defend them. We hate them, but we're going to defend their right to speak because that's the First Amendment. That's America. The left has just totally forgotten this. They don't want to hear anything that they don't want to hear.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we just have this thing in our head that this is what my team believes. It's so unfortunate because it really allows these things to take place. Whereas if we were rational and objective and agnostic, we would look at it and go, these are problems. Like, this is a problem for all of us. This is a problem for everybody. But if, that's your fucking problem. I want a, internal combustion engine, bitch. You can't fucking make me drive an electric car. Like, everyone is so, we have an identity, We identify with being a progressive. We identify with being, someone
whatever it is. Yeah.
Whatever it is. And when we do that, we want to signal to everyone else that we're on the team. It's so frustrating. It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
I mean, yes. And you see it with every, I don't know if you paid attention to this woman in Virginia who's running for the, she's a Democrat running for the House of Delegates, like Virginia State office. Mm-hmm. And she was caught, I think it was about a week ago. She had essentially a porn site with her husband.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that. Filthy, just absolutely filthy. Okay.
Yeehaw.
Okay. So there's her. Filthy. You can.
Filthy. That's a good advertisement for it. Alex Berenson says filthy. Absolutely filthy.
So meanwhile, you got Lauren Bobert, right? Who's like doing what she's doing in that. In that theater in Denver, right?
I heard about that.
Yeah, right. So here's my thing, okay? They've both disqualified themselves from political office. Not because I have any problem with sex or anything like that, but because your judge is bad, okay? You have two little... Don't start talking about how you're going to take...
You can tell by this guy's face, he's about to say some stuff that can't be on YouTube. Look at this guy's face. He's about to say some wild stuff. Like the way that I broke it down at the beginning of the video, he's not about to do that. He's about to just go all out. I'm keeping that face right there. But here's the thing. Let's talk about those two ladies, right? I don't think they've both expelled themselves from public office. Not even the one that was on a website called... Let me prepare you. Okay. Chatterbait. Where you go when you're looking to chatterbait. Just let that sit in. Let that set in. Yeah, it sounds like that word. Mixed with chat. Yeah, it's supposed to. That's where she was uploading her stuff. Okay? I'm just saying. Chatterbait. Okay? I haven't looked it up myself because I have a wife. I don't want her to stumble onto any wild stuff. I'll be like, oh, it was for the podcast. It wasn't me. No, I'm not doing that. But let's hear how these two women actually reacted to what happened to them. All right? So this is the first one. This is Susanna Gibson. This is the one that was on a website called Chatterbait. Let's see how she reacted to this coming out about her.
Stirring up in Virginia's 57th House District race after videos of Democratic candidate Susanna Gibson have come to light of her having sex with her husband on a live website called Chatterbait. According to the Washington Post, who first reported the videos, in the live broadcasts that were recorded and put on another website, Gibson asked viewers for tips to perform certain acts. The Post was tipped off by a Republican operative who has said to have had no ties to Republican candidate for the district, David Owen. In a statement, Gibson says in part, quote, "This is an illegal invasion of my privacy designed to humiliate me and my family. It won't intimidate me and it won't silence me. My political opponents and their Republican allies have proven they're willing to commit a sex crime to attack me and my family because there's no line they won't cross to silence women when they speak up. Gibson, a nurse practitioner and mother of 2, says this won't force her out of the race. Her campaign attorney told the Post the leak is a crime, calling it revenge porn.
If you look at the numbers, the parties are almost...
That's one way of taking responsibility. Now, I'm just kidding, of course. She didn't take any responsibility. She says it was an illegal act when it's on a public website that you can just search her name or just find her image. I don't know. Maybe, hopefully she goes under a different name when she's doing that kind of thing. Yeah. But it's there. It's there for everybody to see, to the point where people were tipping to see certain acts. So to say after someone finds something that you've done and say, well, this is just you trying to take revenge on me. You're trying to silence me. Maybe they don't want to silence you. Maybe they just wanted to make you look bad. But it's not an illegal act. It's definitely not any type of revenge. Revenge, when she's talking about that whole revenge thing, that would be her husband posting the images, right? And those would be private images that only they have access to. She put this on the internet for anyone and everyone to see. So it's a little different. Let's check out what Lauren Bobert has to say about what she's done really quick.
Congresswoman, I know it's, been a rough week. Or has it been?
It's always hard whenever there's gravity put on the voters. I'm here to provide levity and lift burdens off of people. So anytime that they're carrying mine, it's something that, kind of feel deep inside. But ultimately, all future date nights have been canceled. And I learned to check party affiliations before you go on a date. But all in all, it was mostly a lovely time. And, I've taken responsibility for my actions. Would love to know how the musical ended, and I encourage people to go and see it. But it was a great time back in the district, seeing voters and.
So how are the voters taking it? How are the voters taking it right now? Are they understanding at this moment?
Yeah, there's a lot of folks who are certainly understanding, and they understand that it was a part of my personal life, my private time, something that I rarely indulge in, and yeah.
Now, she's actually taking responsibility for what happened, as she should, right? Like,
ultimately, all
future date nights are canceled, like she said. And when she says check affiliation, the gentleman was a Democrat, and this gentleman was, I think he helped this information come forward. So he completely just kind of sacrificed himself. He's like, yeah, I was doing this, but it was with this lady, and now we can out her at this, and just a lot of nonsense. But I mean, when it comes to this gentleman, Alex here saying, I love that face. When he says that they should both be excused, I don't really think so. I think one of them was vaping, because keep in mind, this is what happened, right? This lady, Lauren, that you just saw on the screen, she was vaping in a theater, right? Shouldn't be doing that. I don't like when people do that. Not at all, right? It's you go outside. If you have that addiction to nicotine, go outside, handle it, come back in. Very simple. I see people do it all the time too. It always annoys me. It's usually just young guys doing that stuff. But she was vaping, and then also the vaping is what got her kicked out. Now what she was also doing is she was on a first date with somebody. She was kissing them, he was touching her, she was touching him in the areas, men and women do that in, and that footage got caught on camera. But what got her kicked out, what the problem was that the pregnant lady behind her had, and everybody probably had, is that she was vaping. So that's what really happened there. I don't know if that really compares to a lady uploading videos to a site called Chatterbait. I don't think that's the same thing, in my opinion. And then especially when you see how the two ladies are actually handling it, one of them's just like, listen, took responsibility. Sorry that this happened, blah, blah, blah. The other one's like, this is a personal attack on me. You guys are just attacking me and trying to silence me because I'm a woman. Okay? It's like, no. You uploaded something onto a site called Chatterbait. You're doing things with your husband for money. Like, crazy. But I think those are two different things completely. Now, going on to what else was in the video. Now, the whole thing with right and left, Joe's right about it. Alex is right about it. That does happen a lot. People have to identify. But think about your mindset with what these gentlemen said. Think about what your mindset is if you're right-leaning, right? You're conservative, you're Republican, whatever you want to call it, right? This is the mindset. They verified that there's 70% of people on the left that would want to ban false speech, would like to have a government entity defining speech and banning this speech and pulling people off here and pulling people off there, possibly jailing people for their speech. Stuff like they do in the UK. 70%. Okay? Then also, they despise freedom of speech. This is what they're talking about in this clip. Then on top of that, the left is all about categories. They're the people who categorize people the most. You're black, you're cis, you're this, you're that, you're an ally, you're not, you're misogynist, you're a conspiracy theorist, they're the ones constantly categorizing people. To the point where they came up with the term far right. And then as a retaliation, as a natural comeback to it, people started saying far left. That's how they're even responsible for their own categorizing of far left, and they're responsible for bringing about the term far right and alt right. So I don't know. It would be pretty hard not to want to identify as right leaning when you know all of these things about people who are, again, we'll say far left. We'll say far left. We won't, we'll bar out the classical liberals, the older generation who actually knows what the Liberal Party actually stands for, the Democratic Party actually stands for. Like 100%, like bar them out. But those people on the far left, how are you not going to want to identify as right? How are you not going to just be like, I want to be known as right-leaning? Because I don't want to be associated with any of that. I don't want to be associated with wanting to amend the First Amendment, which is insane. I don't want to be associated with people who want a ban on any type of speech at all. I don't want to be associated with people who are constantly trying to categorize every single person they're around, because, that's like it's a more complicated version of racism, right? Racism is like this category, that category. They're basically doing that, but they're doing it for love and equality. It's wild. So I'm a little biased as I say all this, I know, but why would you want to identify as left-leaning, knowing that this is what these people are all about, knowing that most of their views are things that today are eroding the country, that are eroding, and forget the country, not forget the country, but it's not just America. It's not just Canada. It's even happening in Europe. These people that are on the left, their ideologies, the things they're trying to do, are eroding every single place they get into. Why would, at that point in my mind, if I'm just like straight, I don't have any exposure to politics, and I look at both sides, I'm going to be like, well, I guess I identify as right. I guess I want to identify as right. I don't know. That's just me, guys. That's just how I feel about it. That was a lot. I think my wife's going to call me in a second. I got to wrap it up. Hey, guys, listen. I got to make sure she gets home safe. I got to make, she walks to a place, and I got to make sure she's safe when she does it. Got to do it. It's a husband thing. I got to do it. Now, if you haven't liked the video already, like the video. Let me know in the comments what you think about what they were saying. Like, I get it. People do have to identify, and it's a strange thing. But it's not that strange when you break down what the left's about. When you break down what they're about, what else are you going to want to do? You can be center. You can be center, or you can just be out of it. I don't want to be associated with either. That makes sense too. But how could you, as someone just stepping into it, want to identify with these left ideas? Anybody that identifies as left right now, they got swept away in it. They were someone who believed in free speech and they were anti-establishment and they were standing on the left, and then the left just had this tidal wave of equality and gender and this and that and just swept everybody away as far left as possible. So if you're like in it now, like you look at like Howard Stern and Eminem, they just got swept away. They were the most anti-establishment people in the world at one point. And now all of a sudden the left stands for something completely different and they're just like, well, we're here. I guess we got to stand for whatever they stand for now. It's nonsense in my opinion. Nonsense. Anyways, guys, again, if you haven't liked it, like the video. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. We're making 1 to 3 videos a day. Hit the notification bell. Makes it much easier to keep up. And other than that, I am out.